number one source, Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 357, aka the Magnum episode of Sports Card Nation. As always, glad to be back. Happy Friday if you're listening to this on release day. And we got a great guest today. Frank, the Sports Card CPA's got probably the greatest single Hall of Fame baseball collection probably on the planet, or one of them. He's definitely in the running. Has over 300 of the 350 baseball Hall of Famers autographs, and including many of the big ones and all the current anyone that's alive. He has all of those as well, and is only missing 50 more. And he's an accountant, CPA, who does a lot of work in the sports card hobby. So we're going to talk about his collection, how he decided to go for it, tackle it. We're going to talk to him about some mistakes or things you can do as a hobbyist or a dealer who files taxes as well. A lot of great info jam-packed into the next 2 weeks of show with Frank. So I had a blast talking to him. I think you'll enjoy some of the topics we cover. A little different than the norm, if you will, which is, to me, always fun and always cool to do. As always, want to thank our sponsors in no particular order. Iron Sports Cards. Rob, doing your bulk subs, PSA, SGC, doing very well, and one of the best guys for that. And Sports Collectors Digest, blessed to be able to write for them. Hobby Hotline, our every week Saturday morning live show that appears on the Four Collectors Network. And Upper Deck, who allows us to review and open some product and give away some stuff as well. So with that out of the way, let's get the show underway. I'm real excited to have this next gentleman on Sports Card Nation. I met him a few months back in Chicago at the National, and he gave me a business card, and very interested to talk about him as a whole. He's a collector like most of us who are listening to the show, but he's also a CPA who kind of specializes on the sports card side of the house as well. So I want to welcome to the show, Frank, the Sports Card CPA. Welcome, Frank.
Hey now, John, this is very exciting to have me on. I've watched this podcast for years, so very excited to be actually invited to be on the podcast. Thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate, thank you for your time and coming on and, getting to meet you, obviously, in Chicago. Like I've told you before recording, I'm a dealer. So, any type of, and we'll get into the nuts and bolts of this, but, I don't think, if you're a dealer who profits or makes money in the hobby, obviously we got to pay our sales tax, and that's not avoidable. But when it comes to income taxes and other taxes, depending on obviously what state you live in, I think it's, the more you know, or the more you have someone who can help you or do your taxes, I think the better off you are. And it's just, from being in, like, tax laws change every year. And for the lay person's not going to know all about that, where someone who's like yourself, who's in that line of work, is going to be right on top of that stuff. So I don't think we talk about that segment enough. And again, we'll get into it more here in a little bit. I want to start out with, Frank the hobbyist, Frank the collector. Kind of when did the hobby start as a hobbyist?
The hobby started for me personally in 1983. My father took me to a baseball card show featuring Mark the Bird Fidrich. And I was 6 years old at the time. And I really didn't know who Mark Fidrich was, but he was, let's say, he was as popular as Ohtani in the Detroit when I was a real young child. And so I got to meet him. That's when I got my first of many, many Baseball Hall of Fame autograph. And for those of you that have watched my channel, I used to be called Baseball Hall of Fame Autographs. I recently did a rebrand as the Sports Card CPA. But as you can see behind me, I love collecting. I really don't sell. I just collect Baseball Hall of Fame autographs with the impossible goal of getting every single Baseball Hall.
Let me piggyback off that. Alive and deceased, or
all
obviously
351 Baseball Hall of Famers. Yes, alive, it doesn't matter. I currently stand at 301. I need exactly 50 left. And they're all very, very tough names. We're talking 5 figures.
Yeah, and obviously that number goes up. With each new induction class, you add those to the arsenal or to the collection.
Correct.
Yeah. What obviously you said you're about 49 or 50 short of completion. I mean, what's the big one that will be the toughest of those? They're all tough in their own right, but what one you think's the number one toughest?
The number one, again, a lot of these guys, your listeners have never heard of. For example, there's someone named Frank Grant, who's a turn of the league Negro League player. Rumor is he was illiterate, and there's not a single autograph known to exist. There's a lot of other guys, especially.
Well, that shouldn't count. Like I'm not saying he should. Obviously, he's in the Hall of Fame. That counts, and he was a heck of a player. But if they don't exist, it's not like you're missing. If something really doesn't exist, you're not really missing. You know what I mean? It's like a set where the card wasn't produced, so you're not missing.
Let's say it was produced but never released, so maybe one will come out. But I count them all the same. I count Babe Ruth the same weight as Harold Baines, let's say. If you're in the Hall of Fame, you're in the Hall of Fame. I need your autograph, whether it exists or not. Probably the most common household name of any autograph I need that your listeners would have heard of is Christy Mathewson, obviously. 1936 inductee who passed away about a couple years before that, unfortunately, because of tuberculosis. I know something to do with chemical warfare. And so he passed away very young, again, when the hobby was in its infant. And it just makes his autograph very challenging to get. And what I do is, if you watch my channel, I do an autograph analysis of every single Baseball Hall of Fame. Obviously, we talk about Frank Grant. I did a less than a minute video because no known examples exist. But when I talked about Christy Mathewson, there's just so many forgeries out there. You really need to be careful when you're going to buy it. And without going into details, I mean, I know a lot of the TPAs, people that work for the TPAs, and they're all great people, but even they will tell you they make mistakes. So if you're looking for autographs, it doesn't matter, Hall of Famer, not Hall of Famer, current, veteran, whatever, passed away long, just do your research. I always say buy the autograph, not buy this.
Yeah, a great point by you too, Frank. Right, these are humans, right? When humans make mistakes, that's part of life. It can happen, but you nailed it right on the head, right? Especially with an autograph of significance, of significant value, you can't do too much research and investigating. You can only do too little, especially when making a purchase.
Correct. So I brought out a few autographs, and I've shown these before on my channel, but one of the rarest I have, and I don't, if you're listening, this is a Frank Chance autograph of Tinkers to Evers to Chance. There's probably 10 known autographs, and this one's just a beauty because it's on his letterhead, Frank L. Chance with a branch. If you go on the PSA database, this is the single autograph that they refer to on the database. And like I said, I bought the autograph. There's a lot of cuts out there. I stopped buying cuts after I had a very bad experience. Again, you can watch with one of these. I bought a cut autograph from a very reputable dealer, and unfortunately, it was deemed not authentic. I don't want to say fake. It was deemed not authentic. And what the problem is, once an autograph is deemed non-authentic, it goes into their database as non-authentic. You may not know this, but the TPAs do share their database, and therefore it would probably never be authentic, even if it was real. So therefore, even though I have no plans on selling that autograph, I couldn't get it graded. Therefore, if my descendants ever wanted to sell it, it was pretty much worthless. So it was a very expensive lesson learned about cuts versus buying the provenance of the autograph.
We've heard, recently, I'm sure you heard about the big forgery scandal,
of course,
in Indiana. I'm not going to give his name. He obviously committed suicide. I'm not going to mention, and obviously that's a big story. And it doesn't just hurt people who collect autographs. I think it hurts the hobby in general. I've heard the FBI run estimates that they believe 50% of autographs in the marketplace are non-authentic. In other words, half. I mean, again, it's all speculation. Does that sound right to you, Frank? About half of autographs are not legit, or does that sound too high?
That's me personally. I think that sounds too high in the sense that if you buy an autograph that has, let's say, a reputable TPA, and I'm going to name the big three: JSA, Beckett, and PSA, I would say over 90 some percent of those autographs are good. Again, I would not be buying an autograph today of a very high value player without one of those big certs if you don't know what you're buying. I mean, again, they've all made mistakes, but if you go on eBay, I'm sure that 50% number is higher than normal. But as like one of the heads said, if it's too good of a deal, I mean, if the price is too good, it's too good of a deal. That's, of course, the cliche is escaping me right now. But yeah, probably that
Yeah,
number is
if
true
it's
for
too
all.
good to be true, it
It probably
probably
is.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you, John. So
yeah.
like, anyways, getting back to that. So yeah, if you look at Mickey Mantle, probably on eBay right now, probably I would say maybe 50% are fake. But again, over all those or nearly all those 50% that are fake are probably under $100. So if you're paying under $100 for a Mickey Mantle, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. So do your research. I mean, Mickey Mantle, probably one of the most forged baseball players, at least of all times in terms of autographs. I did a video about it. It's gotten like close to 10,000 views now. And there were, let's say, 5 main forgers around the 2000s with Operation Bullpen. And they're really easy to the trained eye spot and fake and say this is no good. And the TPAs, again, all know this. None of these got through third party. I shouldn't say none. Very, very.
Yeah, Mickey definitely is number one on the
Yeah.
most Fugazi autograph list. You got Jordan on the basketball side of the house as well. I believe me, I have Mickey Mantle autos that are legitimate and certified, and I've had in my hand many of his that I know are just by looking at, and I'm not even a certification guy, but again,
Yeah.
sometimes you can
Yeah.
tell. And like you said, if you're looking at a Mickey Mantle auto and someone's just asking $100, that's usually
Yeah. Just run. Just
yeah,
run.
that's a pretty obvious signal that that is not real. So
Correct. I
um,
mean, the big forgery about a couple years ago was the Willie Mays Say Hey holograms, which a lot of TPAs unfortunately accepted the hologram. It must be real. Again, I don't want to name the name, but it was very similar to Barry Bonds. And I was very fortunate Darren Ravel reached out to me because like I exposed it pretty early that these were bad autographs and what to look for. But again, probably like I would say Willie Mays is the number one autograph that has been passed by TPAs that are forged. If I had to take one, to be careful, it's going to be Willie Mays. So, and they all have the Say Hey hologram. They all look very similar. So, besides that, is that he passed away, like I said, last year. So he's obviously had players have an influx when they pass away. And so that's the exception, not the norm. The TPAs are all good people. They're not trying to steal your money.
yeah, that's a tough. If you know about Willie Mays autograph, that's a tough autograph to duplicate if you're a forger. But again,
Correct.
these unscrupulous people practice their craft repeatedly, and then then you got auto pen issues. Like it's not just all necessarily handwritten things. In the 40s and 50s, you had the clubhouse signatures where a bat boy or a clubby learned how to do players on that team's signature to take the workload in the sense off of them. And back then too was a little more innocent than it would be today because there wasn't like a huge marketplace like we know now. That was just, hey kid, sign these for me so I can do some other stuff. But
Yeah.
still not, talk a little bit about that, especially on the Hall of Fame stuff.
I mean, the most famous one is the 1955 Dodgers that won the World Series. There was a guy, a bat boy, clubhouse attendant. His nickname was the Bro. He had like a unibrow. And
Yeah.
Duke Snyder said he could sign my name better than I can. And so I've actually seen him in person where the guys are like, I got this baseball from the 1955 Dodgers. It's real. They have this great story how it was passed down. I mean, autograph experts now can probably spot the differences. There's certain things to look for. But again, that's probably when the secretarial really took effect. They became really good. Prior to that, like Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth, yes, they had secretarial signatures, but they were not real close to what their actual signatures looked like. Again, like 1955 is kind of the turning point where we're like, wow, these been close. And going back to what you said with the recent autograph scandal that broke without giving information, the majority of the autographs were not forged as much as they were auto pens. And they dropped a video on that. And there's certain things to look for, even with an auto pen. I mean, the autograph looks real in the sense that he forged like 100 Wayne Gretzky autographs, and everyone looks exactly identical. Like Wayne Gretzky on a perfect day couldn't do that himself. So again, this is like with the auto pen. Again, bringing that little forward. Again, that started mostly with politicians in the 1970s, 1980s. Before then, it's taken over now to sports stuff. I mean, we see that very commonly. Let's say sports signed books are being auto penned a lot and passed off as real. And the other thing problem now is a lot of these athletes, they don't know how to sign their name. So they make lines and little drawings.
Yeah. Or just initials.
Just initials.
It would be like me just putting JN on a sticker or a piece of paper or the card itself. It's a different generation, you know.
It's a different generation. Also, a lot of these players, again, I don't want to like segregate this, but a lot of them that come from the Dominican League in that area, they really never learned how to spell their names. They just learn baseball. And that's all they really care about. So
making a glove out of milk cartons.
Yeah, exactly.
You know. So, they weren't thinking about signing autographs, trying to survive and enjoying the game that they love, that if they were fortunate enough, could provide them a living eventually, which it did for some.
Time for a quick break, but we'll be right back.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
Sports Card Nation has returned.
For you, I mean, you have a great collection. Obviously, you talked about it. Kind of started, but with Mark Friedrich, the Bird. When did you when did you know, like, I want to collect autographs? And then maybe two-pronged question, Frank. When did that? And then when did you say I'm going for all the baseball Hall of Famers that ever are in?
So in 1993, I went to the National at the Rosemont Convention Center. Not the Rosemont, I'm sorry, McCormick Place Convention Center, downtown Chicago. You're probably familiar with it. And they had a bunch of Hall of Famers. And I wasn't real rich as a kid. I was middle class growing up. So they weren't that expensive, the autographs then, like they are now. So I got as many autographs that I could. I don't have the baseball, they're behind me, but I filled the baseball with like 20 Hall of Famers, and I'm like, this is really cool. And so my father and I started a tradition. And in 1994, we went to the George R. Brown Convention Center for the 94 National. And what's interesting about that, I always talk about this, is Mickey Mantle was there. It was his last show. Nobody knew it was going to be his last show, obviously. He just signed with Upper Deck. He was charging $80 an autograph. And now that's like a bargain, obviously. But back then, $80 for an autograph. Insane. The next closest person was Carl Yastrzemski. So I remember looking at his line. I have a picture somewhere, and there's nobody in line for Mantle because no one was going to pay $80. He's been doing a year ago. He would do the show for $30. Of course, he passed away less than a year later, and I made a vow to myself. Whenever I see someone's a baseball Hall of Famer, because I always love baseball, I would get their autograph. So my initial goal was to get all the living baseball Hall of Famers in person. I have flown all over the country, all the nationals, getting them in person. In 2001, I got Kirby Puckett and finished every living Hall of Fame. And then now what do I do? And in about 2000, this is when Operation Bullpen was really coming to light. So I'm kind of glad I didn't start until when I did. And then in 2007, I started making, let's say, some real money, like adult money. And I said, I'm looking at it right now. A Chief Bender autograph. He was a pitcher for the Philadelphia Athletics. Came for sale. And I'm like, I'm going to bid on it. And I bought it. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go for them all. I'm going to go for them all. I know it's an impossible task. I've taken out small business loans to get some autographs. I got some real toughies that way. Fortunately, the vintage autograph market has a rising tide raises all ships. Like vintage sports cards, the autographs have gone up as well in value. So it may be my retirement. Hopefully I won't need to sell them one day, but if I have to, they're all here. And I'm really proud of not only the autographs, but like the medium that's on. Like you can see behind me over here is Roberto Clemente's signed tax return. I just did Bill McKechnie. It's a really cool endorsement that appeared in a 1928 baseball magazine. So like everything behind me are government postcards, checks, documents. I've been very careful since I learned a very expensive lesson to avoid cut autographs.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome pieces for those looking on in video. And again, having 300 of the 350 just tells you what kind of collection that you have. Do you know anyone else like yourself that's attempting to do this? And if you do like-minded folks, are you like, do you work together? Like, hey, I have an extra one of these and you have an extra one of those, or how does that work or not? I know that works with cards. Is it
Yes, the short answer is yes. So I have a text chain with people you probably know: Bill, the Hall of Fame collector, Mike Moynihan, Jake, Legends Ever Die. And we're all in different points of our, let's say, journey to finish them. Bill and myself are the closest. And we kind of look at the major auction houses like REA, Heritage. This is coming out. Like, this is my high bid. I'll be like, if you want it, you're going to have to bid X or Y. There's been other time. There's a rare Negro League Hall of Famer named Alex Pompey. His autograph came about in a really small auction house. And I know I had him. Bill needed him. And we're friends. So I called him. I said, I can get it for such and such price. I'm not going to charge you anything extra. And I just picked it up for him. And I turned around and I sold it to him for cost. And he looks out for me. So we really do look out for each other, because right now it's a small niche. I don't know anyone personally that has a bigger Hall of Fame collection than me, but I'm sure they're out there because I see the autographs now, players I need, let's say Christy Matthews, for example, and they're going for an insane amounts of money. So, some high dollar people out there spending that on autograph.
Yeah, no doubt. So when you attend a national, is it twofold for you? In other words, what I mean by that, Frank, is obviously you might attend, wait in line or whatever you do for some that are there, or at this point, all the living ones you have. So it would only be maybe a new inductee that you haven't got in person. So you're more showcase shopping than waiting online for someone in person. Would that be accurate?
That's fairly accurate. So like when you get to my level, and again, someone taught me this who had the biggest Hall of Fame autograph collection at one time, is you start to speculate who's going to get it. You know what I'm saying? So like this past national, and I know he's only played 1.5 years, but Pete Crow Armstrong was signing in person. I'm a real big in-person collector. And so he was signing in person. So I did wait in line. I got Pete Crow Armstrong's autograph. I got Kyle Tucker's autograph, because you don't know if they're ever going to do a show again. If so, they're going to be much. PCA's autograph, I was so disappointed. If you're watching this, Pete, I don't think you are. Please learn how to spell your name, not just put PCA for the amount of money you charge. Unfortunately, most of the vintage autograph dealers are disappearing. Auction houses are just cleaning up. So everyone that has a collection of autographs, let's say that I need in my level, let's say besides the Roos, the Cobbs, the more rare baseball Hall of Famers, they're all going to auction these, John. I have to be honest, it's kind of disappointing, because I'm sure you could do some baseball cards in the good old days, like the Frank Chance autograph cost me, I'm going to be honest, $12,000. So I said to the dealer that had it, I'm going to give you $1,000 a month. You hold the autograph, give you $1,000 a month, and come back to you next year at the National. You're going to hand me the autograph. Handshake deal. Both sides, I think, ended up very happy. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah, it's tough. I get it, and that's nice that even he was willing to do that and that sort of thing. I like what you said too. That like you'll speculate, right?
Oh,
on a
yeah.
guy that's playing well. And like they're not obviously in the Hall of Fame yet. They're still playing, but like, the trajectory kind of points to that. And rather than wait and maybe miss a boat that leaves port, you are sort of like locked in. I wanted to ask you, have you ever bought a collection of autographs because you didn't need them necessarily all of them, but you needed a few in there. But whoever was selling wasn't piecing it out, so you had to buy the whole thing. And if the answer is yes to that, I know you say you don't sell them, but in that case, would you sell the things that you don't necessarily need from buying the collection? And I guess if the answer is no, I guess the second part of that would be, would you ever consider that if like an opportunity arose like?
Great question. The answer is no. I just am so busy with, let's say, my real job. I don't have a chance. I did one time. So there's a Hall of Famer named Stan Kovaleski. He was a pitcher with the Indians, and the rumor was he was illiterate. So his family was selling off his entire collection. And as I said, all you could find of his was index cards. And so in this collection was his Social Security. I'm like, this is a cool piece. And I framed the Social Security card. I'm pointing to it back here. And I said, I just want a Social Security card. So I spent a couple $100 for the collection. And in it turned out was a government postcard as well that he wrote in 1917 to his then girlfriend/wife. And also in the collection was, believe it or not, his wedding certificate. So I did turn around and sell the rest of the collection and just kept the Social Security card. But that is the only time, John, that I have ever bought something just to piece one thing out and then turn around and sell it. There's been. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if another opportunity where it was more like, hey, there's 12 autos in this collection. The owner of this collection does not want to break it apart. It's one price, takes it all. And you need, let's say, 2 or 3 or 2 of them. Would you consider that? And again, with the 50 that you need, it's going to be one heck of a collection but would you consider a deal like that where you buy that for who knows how much, but you're keeping the 2 or the 3 that you don't have, and the other 9 or 10 you're going to obviously sell, and maybe even hopefully offset some of your costs on the 2 or 3 you're potentially thinking.
Yeah, I mean, if there were 1 in there, I would do it. Sure. I'll tell you a quick story. I hope I'm not losing your, because these are like deep Hall of Famers.
No, people love it. I love this stuff.
I'll tell you a story. So last year, I think REA sold a collection of Chicago Cubs checks, canceled checks. There had to be 300 checks in each batch, and they sold 5 batches. Let's say 200 checks. Now, buried in these 200 checks was a Hall of Famer named Tommy McCarthy. So there was only 2 known autographs at the time before this collection. These checks got released. And so in these batches of collections, and no one knew it. The what's it called? The auction houses didn't even go through the checks. They said, here's 300 checks from this time period. And of course, in 2 separate batches of the 5 were 2 Tommy McCarthy checks. I know at least 2. One was sold for $30,000. And the other one is for sale right now privately for about $35,000. Again, beyond my price range. But like the batch sold for $8,000 a total. So that would be a steal, obviously, if I would have known about it. But like that's what you have to do these days to find, let's say, the 50 or anything like that.
Yeah, that would be a nice haul to get it at a decent price.
Yeah, it'd be a nice haul.
But like you said, when they sell lots like that, are they showing each check individually or not really? So you really can't tell.
No, you couldn't tell. As soon as I saw the check for sale, I knew exactly where it came from. So I remember seeing the lot. But I mean, I'm not a big gambler. I'm an accountant, which will be shortly. But as a CPA, I don't want to spend $10,000 gamble, because you would have thought that a major auction house like Robert Edwards Auction would have gone through and look for big names. Obviously, they didn't. So lesson learned. But no, they did not show every single check.
Yeah, it's interesting when you see lots like that, like if they still do them, and like you said, that the fact they don't take a look, see if there are any diamonds in the rough, so to speak. But if you purchase something like that and you hit, that's a nice score.
Yeah. And my guess is the person that went through them is a person like your average baseball fan. They're looking for Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb. They're not looking for Tommy McCarthy. Who's Tommy McCarthy? So
no, it's a great point. So sometimes it's worth a shot in the dark. As they say. Awesome stuff from Frank right there. What incredible collection of all-time baseball Hall of Fame autographs. And I know we talked about that heavy today, which is just great stuff, and I want to apologize for that. Part 2, which is next week, episode 358, we will dive into more of the tax advice. So if you're a buyer, seller, full-time, part-time, weekend warrior, whatever, we're going to go over some tax do's and don'ts and tips and tricks, and I'm going to ask him some questions that I've always wondered about as well. So if you enjoyed this week's episode, next week's episode is going to be right up your alley as well. So come back and join us then, and Frank will be back to tackle some of the accounting of the hobby, if you will. So we're going to get to our Hobby is the People announcer of the week and wrap up this week's episode.
Time for our Hobby is the People announcer of the week.
This is Andy Friedman. Remember, the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People announcer of the week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.